Welcome to Canuck of the Dead. My guest today is directed a film I got to see at Blood in the Snow for 2021, and it was one of the best ones that I got to see that year, which is saying a lot because, trust me, that year had a lot of amazing feature films. But this one, it had a central topic, one location, and it kept you captivated the entire time, which is hard to do when you're doing a single location shoot. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Francesco. How are you, buddy?
Rob, thanks for having me. I'm great. How about you?
Oh man, great! Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, ever since we saw this at Bits, and we did the live on Super Channel, you weren't able to come onto the Q&A.
I guess I wasn't.
Yeah,
I think I was sick. I think I caught something that weekend. I remember.
yeah,
I told Derek to take over because I was down and out.
exactly. And I've been wanting to pick your brain ever since that. So I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're here. But I'm going to get everybody kind of caught up. We're going to show the trailer for Hall
Okay,
so they get
cool.
an idea of what we got. Right?
Awesome.
Here it
Let's
is.
do it.
If you or someone you know is developing extreme fits of rage, do not hesitate to contact your local health officials. Keep your children out of sight. Hide. This is a state of emergency. This message will repeat.
私ね、久しぶりに怯えないで過ごせてるの。だから言ったでしょ。こんなところ赤ちゃんにいいわけないって。あなたは苦しさから逃れて。
Why are there so many cars outside?
Well, it's a big hotel, and I think there's a gala happening to help with doctors and hospitals with everyone getting sick.
I get so distracted by my anger. The last thing I want is for Kelly to see us like this. I know I've got things to work on, and it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to her. I want us to try to be a family together. It started.
You have to tell me you start feeling different, okay?
狂ってそして今はあなたのようなの
I wish you could see. It's beautiful.
Are you sick? Are you sick?
So on the tail end of that, I have to say, this script is like a filmmaker's dream. It's one location. So
Yeah.
what it was that, or what pulled you to this script?
Absolutely, what you just said. It was the one location element of it. When I first received the script, Hall was I think it was back in 2018 from one of the writers, Adam Kolodny, and I was captured. I was exactly what you said. It was a challenge. I knew it was going to be a challenge to keep the audience entertained for that, for a good amount of time. Let's say 90 minutes, 80 minutes in one location. But for me, that was the challenge, and I said to myself, "This is something I'd love to explore." So the first element that that really attracted me towards the script was the one location, the contained environment, and then of course we started doing some work on the script because it initially started with it was a ghost story, and then it went to like a crime story. So the script evolved over time, but the initial catch for me was always about the isolation of the hotel, the one location element of it. So yeah, absolutely, that was it. That was the main reason why I wanted to do Hall. And of course, like we know as indie filmmakers, it's always cost efficient, especially when you're working on on an indie film like Hall. I knew that financing was limited, and I had to keep costs low. So having that one location definitely benefited on the cost side of things, right? So yeah.
And then I have to ask too, the second one, it is prominent in the trailer. You have a Japanese character in there.
Yes, I do.
Is there any thought about that, as opposed, like, you have the subtitles and everything? Was
Yeah.
there any pushback on that as far as keeping the characters, or sorry, the film involved, so people don't stop to read halfway through a film? But
Yeah.
you kept that, and I'm just curious if that was an artistic choice. Was that a story-based choice?
I think it was both. I think it's a little bit of both. When Yumiko Shako came onto the project, I really thought it brought an element to the script, the story. Having someone from a different country and meet up with our other protagonist, Carolina. I thought it was an interesting combination of the two, because both these women are going through situations with their husbands, let's say, with their relationships, and the whole element of the spread, the virus, and it was just a way to show the world as well, like, that everyone is going through this. It's not just in our world, in North America, let's say. So it did help, I think, in terms of the themes of the story, and aesthetically, yeah, initially it wasn't written with a Japanese actress or an Asian actress. It came later on, but I just thought it brought some flavor and some character to the story overall, which I enjoyed very much. And there's not much of the Japanese subtitles. It's moments, and it's important moments, and it just, I thought it brought something interesting to her character, and as well as the whole film. And she got some great feedback from everyone that watched the film. That they loved her performance, and yeah, I was really satisfied with the final results once I saw that she was part of the film, and she was incredible to work with. I wasn't sure, definitely, for the language barrier, how that was going to work out, but I had a translator on set to help me, and she's a pro. She's been around, so it was definitely easy to work with her, and I think she brought Hall to another level. I don't think Hall would have been what it is if it wasn't for her performance and her participation. So I think it helped both aesthetically, creatively. It really brought everything together in the end, So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, are you saying she didn't speak a lick of English?
You started the film. She practiced those lines before coming to Canada, and she spoke in English, but no, she barely spoke English. I didn't speak to her in English. I spoke to the translator most of the time, and sometimes she would understand certain words, if I'm asking for a certain action. She definitely she had some knowledge with the English language, but not she wasn't able to kind of put sentences together unless it was for the dialogue, which when she has that performance or that scene with Carolina. But yeah, so that definitely, I thought it was going to be a challenge, but in the end, it worked out perfectly with the translator. It was great, And there's not much dialogue, right? She's most of the time she's on the floor crawling and struggling, so there wasn't much to talk about except keep struggling, keep.
So, and I only say this as a filmmaker myself, looking at casting, and if I'm trying to cast someone in this multicultural role, as well as not being able to speak directly to them, didn't you find that might have added issues to the filming, that as an independent film you weren't sure you wanted?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's like I said, it came. I just thought that because of the limited dialogue, having a lot of people on set, in terms of, let's say, she had her husband with her, she had her child. We were in a one location. She would be in her hotel room. She'd come down to set, or basically come out in the hallway to set. Having that was the going joke with everyone, with Julian and everyone. They love that experience. Everyone loved that experience, by the way. Just being able to go to have your hotel room, come out, and you're on set. That's pretty unique in itself. I think I'm never going to experience that again. It was pretty, it was a lot of fun. But I think that's all those elements. I wasn't too scared, because I spoke to her husband prior. who he speaks pretty good English, and I discussed the project. We had meetings, so we prepared ourselves for when she came. It wasn't just like just show up. We went over a few things. I sent her the script revisions, and so I thought we were well prepared, and because we were in one location, and like I said, she only had 5 days of shoot. Yeah, she had 5 days of shoot, so there wasn't much. And we started with the heavy stuff first, with the dialogue first, because I wanted to get that out of the way in the can. And then, in terms of the performance on the floor, it was a different experience. That it's more about, we didn't do hundreds of takes. It was just grab the best moments. So I was pretty comfortable. I wasn't worried too much. Especially when she got here after the first day, it's like, yeah, we got this. It's going to be a fun experience. So it was great.
And absolutely, it does add to that film, I think, because you have that multicultural where she has a whole different dynamic with family and what's supposed to be allowed, as opposed to over here.
Exactly. So, and that's we played with that. We played with, like I said, it evolved. The script evolved from 2018 until we shot the film. It evolved. We shot in January 2019. Prior to COVID. So we had a lot. Like I said, it evolved so much, and she was one of the last pieces to come on board, and I was very happy. And also the fact that she was pregnant, like I said, the element of the themes of mother and child. She wasn't pregnant originally, her character, so we added that as well on top of that. So it definitely brought so many elements to her character, which I think she, like you said, I think she brought the film to another level.
And you mentioned you filmed it before COVID, because that was the big thing that I talked about last year, was how this is like the perfect film for COVID, because you're in a hallway with a limited number of people. Like when I watched it, I swore it was filmed, right as the pandemic hit.
Well, that's exactly it. It was filmed prior to COVID, and because I look back now and I hear, and while we were in post production and just finalizing the film, and everything was happening. So when the first lockdown happened last March, I was in post production for the film, and I don't even think I realized it at first how close what was going on in the world to the film. So first, it was just talks that people were talking on the news. Yes, there's lockdowns, but then when it became public and it was a huge deal, then I put two and two together. I go, oh my God, like I'm watching the film and I'm watching what's going on, and I saw the correlation. I was like, this is incredible. This is insane. And I didn't know if it was going to hurt us or help us. I think it did both, based on the reactions, based on the critics, based on the feedback I received from people, viewers. Like I said, critics. A lot of people that watch it might not know that it was filmed prior, so that's why there's a certain way of seeing the film differently because of COVID. So it definitely played with the result and the reactions to the film, for subjective for everyone, right? It's different for everyone, but yeah, I think it was an incredible. I don't think that's ever going to happen again in a lifetime.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not. Exactly. Let's hope not. I would have never thought this would have happened. The subject matter always interested me since what, years ago. The last pandemic we had I think it was not a pandemic, but we had a spread of the H1N1 a couple of years back, and I was working. I remember that's when the whole topic interested. I started doing some research on it, and so the subject matter I was always interested towards it, and I just thought this film, through this film, we found an opportunity to play with that. So yeah, I would have never thought that in a million years that this would have taken place in the year after the film released. So
interesting too, because of COVID. Everybody views films differently. Like I know, even sitting upstairs and watching a TV show, you see those bar scenes, and you're like, "Oh, that's not safe."
Yeah.
It was filmed like 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
It's insane. It's so true. It's so true. The world is changing now, and you definitely watch films differently. Absolutely. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. Where it's going to go. If it's going to be part of the filmmaking. I think it's already started. Right? There's so many shows. I saw the morning show that they were implementing the whole COVID topic. So yeah, it's going to be a transition, but definitely it will affect the filmmaking process for sure.
Well, I found it interesting how you combine genres, like you mentioned the pandemic type thing, like Outbreak and Contagion, but you also have that zombie element, where it looks like it could be an outbreak of both, a contagion and undead, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you fit that in? Because I know it's a fine line to walk when you're in there.
It is. It is a fine line, and I know a lot of people. When they saw the film and with the distributors and everyone, they always, some people associate it right away to zombie flick. Some people definitely understood the other drama element of it, right? The psychology of it, of the characters, and more of a sickness. To be honest, completely honest, it was never meant to be a zombie flick from the start. It was always meant to be a sickness, the beginning of a sickness, of a spread, with elements of, like you said, the zombie touch, because I think it's definitely what was more entertaining. It was interesting for the characters, for the aesthetic of it, but it for the heart of it always came from a sickness and different stages of a sickness. Like COVID, like a lot of sicknesses, there's different stages. So each character, if you look carefully, they are going through different stages throughout the film, and not everybody caught on to that as well, which was interesting later to see people's feedback, is that there is different stages, whether it be breathing, whether it be be transformation, or going rabid and transforming. Like there was and it happened, and for each person it happens at different stages. So hallucinations, right? So definitely it was something I wanted to try. Like, to me, it was definitely about the character's journey, their backstory, and in a bad situation, and the whole zombie element that came with with the reception of the people. They kind of made their own thoughts on it, so it became a kind of mix of those two genres organically. It wasn't, let's say, this is what it had to be. For me, originally, it went in with, like I said, the sickness element, and it evolved into that combination of the both. And I think it worked well. I was happy with that. And I knew what I was getting into from the start. It wasn't like, because some people said, yeah, but it's a zombie flick, you should have them running around. But that was not the plan. The plan was that the sickness paralyzed them, and that's what made it drag on and made the hallway extend in a metaphorical way, in a sense where it just kept people contained in that environment, or else it wouldn't have worked well if it was that type of zombie flick where people are running. And I thought it was unique. It was a unique twist to try it differently. That creatively, I think it was fun for me to try something, because I did not come into this making a zombie flick. That's for sure.
Oh no, and like you said too, with the stages, as you can see when they again first drop, when they're a bit, and when they start to kind of move again, you can see, and you're kind of in your head going, oh, that guy's next,
Yes.
And that was a great element. Now, when you're doing this, though, I know in most zombie films, there's this urge to go full gore, like, oh my God, they're going to be dripping and oozing and things falling off. And how did you draw that line in what you wanted to show?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's exactly, what we did in pre-production was, the focus was build the characters as much as we can. Definitely, I look back now, and there's things, of course, like any filmmaker, right? I wish I would have done this differently. Of course, and there's absolutely elements of the film that I would have done differently, but it is what it is. But definitely, I went in with the idea of saying, let's build the characters right off the start. Establish the situation, build the characters, and focus on the psychology of them and what they're going through. And build on, and that's why we started with the flash forwards, flashbacks kind of element, so we can understand that something is coming, something has started, something happened. But let's go back a bit and explain how we got there. So I told myself, I definitely want to have elements of character development, but combined with some of the gore and suspense and scares, right? Because I first of all, I love psychological drama films. I love horror films. I guess it's part of who I am as a filmmaker, combining those elements. So it definitely happened organically, but definitely subconsciously as well. So I made selections of where, I wanted to show some of those scare sequences or gory sequences, whether when, we can talk about it, films now where Yumiko gets killed and then the father transforms as well. So it was very selective, and they were put in certain areas where I wanted to keep the entertainment going and keeping the story moving forward. So it was definitely thought out, but at the same time, it just happened organically. I just wanted to combine those two elements, have some backstory to the character as much as I can, but still keep the horror element as much as possible without over the top, just enough, because that way it drags, it keeps people, it's a slow burn, but at the same time, when it does happen, it pops out. It's like, oh, it stays with you. It's not like just constant where it's just, you see it throughout, right? So yeah, I think I hope it worked. I feel like it worked out well in that in that way. But like I said, always things I go back and say I could change, I could do this differently, but that's just filmmaking.
Right. Oh yeah. If you're not looking back going, I should have changed this, then you're not doing something right. Yeah. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Now, I'm a huge proponent of more is less, or less is more sometimes.
Correct.
So with that being said, I know it's weird to have a child in a cast where you're having this kind of line drawn on how much gore you're going to show.
Oh my God. Yeah.
How much of a challenge was it to be able to shoot that kind of stuff with her?
Yeah. Well, if you look carefully, I mean, she was not part of she was not part of any scenes that contained the gore or the killings. The only scene that she had that was pretty, faced with, let's say, the aesthetics, the gore sequences, was her father in the basement. But besides that, her scenes were separate, but she's such a pro, right? She was natural, and it was so easy to work with her. And we had some tricks, I had some tricks to get her to be frightened and to give us that performance on screen, and of course Carolina, together they bonded, which helped tremendously. That mother and daughter relationship, so that really helped. We worked that before the scene started, before the shoot started. But yeah, there was sequences where she had to go out and see the hallway and see what's going on, and she sees that people are transforming. But when we actually did it, there was nobody there, on the floor. It was more like myself. It was actually me. I had what do you call it? A dummy from the VFX team, and I had the dummy in my hand with the monitor. So as she would turn the corner into the hallway, I would kind of move forward with the dummy towards her, just to kind of give her that reaction. So when she would come back to camera, I would get some of that reaction. So I was just doing it on the spot myself in certain moments like that. So yeah, because we shot some of the sequences separately. But she saw it. She saw the gore. I mean, she saw the aesthetics, the prosthetics, the people transformed on set. She was laughing. She was having a good time. It was time to turn it around. She did. She was awesome. So yeah, it was easy to work. I mean, there was moments where she got carried away, like any child, where she gets excited and she's running around, and I had to get her back in focus. So there was moments, of course, like any child, like I said. But overall, it was a great experience too, working with her and Carolina as like the mother and daughter relationship. So
I remember interviewing in our Blue Master, what's it like to make a film you won't be able to see 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, exactly. Gee, you should see Bailey now. She's grown. It's unreal. Since we shot the film, she went through puberty. She's already I think she's tall, double her height that she was when she was in the film.
That's the tricky thing with that age too, because you don't know when the growth spurt's going to happen. Like it could literally happen while you're on set.
Exactly. Especially that's for series. That's difficult, right? It needs to be kind of written in the story that there's that transformation of a young adolescent, let's say, or a young teen, right? But yeah, so luckily we just had her for those few weeks, and then she's grown up now.
Oh man, how long was the shoot for that?
So the film lasted, honestly, we did the film in less than 13 days.
Wow.
Yeah, we really had tight. Like I said, the fact that we were shooting in a hotel room really allowed us to, make up a lot of time. The company moved, the transfer to go to another location. We were there the whole time. If we were not in the hallway, we were in the basement. If we were in the basement, we were in the stairwell. If we were on the stairwell, we were at the elevator. So it was all, in the hotel. So that saved us tremendous amount of time. So we managed to pack our days in. It was very well calculated what we were doing on each day. It was like, as an indie filmmaker, you have to be prepared. So the schedule, we spent a lot of time on that, making sure We had everything we need to execute. So it wasn't a lot of time, to be honest. 12 days, 13 days wasn't a lot of time. And but we managed. I mean, we never went too much overtime. The actors were well taken care of. Everybody was eating. We had snacks on we had amazing food on set constantly, so people had energy. Nobody felt exhausted. It was a really beautiful experience for an indie film, honestly. And I had people come visit, other producer friends of mine, and they loved just being there. It was nice. And a friend of mine actually manages the hotel there in terms of the restaurants and stuff. So that's, as an indie filmmaker, like we said, we get to find relationships for people for locations. People help out as much as they can. So he helped me with the location. It was minimal fees, but the fact that he allowed me to shoot there for minimal costs and the food and everything allowed us to make this film. Because if it wasn't for that, just the hotel itself would have cost us the budget of the film. You know what I mean? But yeah, the fact that everybody was sleeping there and coming out of their rooms, it was great. We shot Julian's scene in his actual hotel room, so that was so much fun. No, it was definitely a unique experience with everything that's happened with COVID. It's memorable. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned him because I want to encourage everybody to stick around to the bonus, because I'm going to talk about a possible sequel because of the cameo by a good friend of mine, Julian Richings, and see how much of that is real. We'll be right back.